I sent them to
play by play.
I know, exactly.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Kristi Noem, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, and today we're here to talk about an operation that's been going on for several months. In fact, after an incident happened here in New York City that brought us to a point where we recognized that we had to work together in order to bring illegal criminal aliens to justice. Nearly 6 months ago, 2 criminal illegal aliens attacked an off-duty Customs and Border Protection agent and his friend while they were sitting on a rock in a park. After hours, enjoying the evening together, these 2 criminals came and attempted to rob them, and it ended up where they bravely fought back. This officer defended himself and his friend, but not before being shot in the face and in the arm by one of these criminals. Immediately after, the men and women of the Homeland Security investigations worked with NYPD, leading to the arrest of that gunman in just 2 hours. Within 28 hours, the second assailant was arrested as well, and those individuals have been brought to justice. But those individuals would have never been in this country if they hadn't been allowed in by the Biden administration when they ignored our federal laws and allowed them to come in illegally. Now, officer that was injured doesn't seek public attention. He wishes to remain anonymous, but he had a distinguished career and a legacy of service and continues to do so. But his life was forever altered by this heinous crime. His attackers never should have been in this country, and they've been protected and were protected up until that point by sanctuary city policies. In fact, they had long criminal rap sheets and were released by the Biden administration and continued to be released by leaders in this city to perpetuate crimes against the citizens that live here. During our investigation, we learned that these scumbags were affiliated with the transnational criminal organization, the notorious Trinitaris gang in New York. We began to target every single last person that is affiliated with them and recognized that they needed to be brought to justice. The American people deserve dignity, they deserve justice, and we deliver both. So we launched Operation Salvo here in New York City. Operation Salvo was a cooperation of the resources of CBP, HSI, ERO, and also the federal prosecutors from the Southern District of New York. The New York County District Attorney's Office also participated in this operation. We've arrested 54 individuals as a part of Operation Salvo since its inception just a few months ago. Those arrested are violent transnational gang members and affiliates associated with Trinitarios who are responsible for weapons trafficking, for human smuggling, for narcotics distribution, and for armed robberies. They had perpetuated previous violent attacks across the city of New York City. We have already removed not only many of these individuals that we have arrested, but over 60% of them have been returned back to their home countries to face justice for their crimes there as well. These arrests and these removals represent a significant blow to the criminal network that has been terrorizing communities and right here in New York City and throughout the United States. And that's our message to this administration, to this city, to the state, and to the United States, is that President Trump and his law enforcement officers that are entrusted to protect the American people will every day continue to keep America safe. Operation Salvo is just the beginning of a broader and a much more sustained effort to go after not only transnational criminal organizations and networks, but also illegal criminal aliens throughout the country. We are on offense. The Trump administration is using every single tool that we have to protect the American people. Sanctuary policies, whether they're here in New York City, whether they're in California, Illinois, or Minneapolis, if you are a criminal illegal alien, we are coming to get you. We will arrest you. We will bring justice, and we will also bring safety to the American people. We are warning anyone, if you think you can harm an individual, a citizen of the United States, or a law enforcement officer, we will find you and bring you to justice. If you lay a finger on one of our officers, we will catch you, we will prosecute you, and you will feel the full extent of the law. In every single thing the Trump administration does, we put the American people first. Operation Salvo has proven that by taking 54 dangerous individuals off of our streets and protecting the people who live here in this city. Now, also, thanks to President Trump, we have 2.6 million people who have left our country who shouldn't have been here in the first place. They were here illegally, and over 650,000 of them were arrested, detained, and deported back to their home countries. 2 million of them left voluntarily, recognizing this was their opportunity to go home and come back someday the right way so they have a chance to enjoy the American dream. Of course, doing these operations requires brave citizens that are willing to serve their country, and we're excited by the amount of people who want to join the Department of Homeland Security in their efforts to protect the American people. And tomorrow is Law Enforcement Day, so I'd like to encourage all of you that when you see a CBP officer, an ICE officer, anyone serving in federal, state, or local who are pledging their lives and taking an oath to protect their communities and their country and the people that live there, that you thank them. Do something nice for them. Buy them lunch, give their families some support, and thank them for their service and their dedication to freedom and to liberty and enjoying the opportunity to sleep peacefully in our beds at night. Now, I'm pleased that I get to introduce several other speakers that will come up and share information on this operation with you. The first one is going to be Director Frank Russo will address and talk about some of the specifics of this operation.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Madam Secretary, we can't thank you enough for being here today. Your humanity, your compassion was evident to us the minute our officer got shot. You visiting him in the hospital, checking up on him every so often was really a clear indication of your care for our officer, and really inspired us to come up with this operation. I'm sure that the success of this operation is a direct result of your care, so thank you for that. I want to get something across to you all in a clear message. New York City is a safer city because we did not allow this attack, this vicious attack on our officer, to go unanswered and unpunished. Because Operation Salvo delivered clear, real, and measured results. Now, the best thing about this operation is that it was done the way law enforcement loves to do it. Quietly, discreetly, behind the scenes, often under the cover of darkness. And what that did was it allowed our officers and agents to go out there, to conduct surveillance, to do intel gathering operations, and to arrest these individuals without any interruptions and without any impact to civilians. That's the way it's supposed to be done. And that's the way we kept New York City safe. 6 months ago, our officer was enjoying a Saturday night in the park. And when he was attacked, it was an attack on all of us. And we realized we had to restore public safety and the rule of law. Our mission is clear at CBP. Our mission is to protect the homeland, safeguard the borders, and endure economic prosperity. But this mission was more narrowly focused. This mission was about protecting the citizens of New York and ridding ourselves of these horrible individuals. Now, we came up with the name Salvo because the name means a lot to us. Salvo, first and foremost, the term our officer received salvation that night. By the grace of God and because of the incredible support from the NYPD under leadership of Commissioner Tisch and her team, who was out there picking up our officer and bringing him to a hospital. So we thank the NYPD for that. Salvo also references a term of simultaneous discharge of guns in battle. And that's what happened that night to our officer. And he was so courageous in getting shot in the wrist and in the face and still firing back. He's a hero to us, and he inspires us each and every day. And finally, we felt the need as a premier law enforcement agency with our partners to unleash a salvo of justice. And so by using intel-driven operations, data-driven targeting capabilities that are second to none, we went after individuals who are illegally here and many who have criminal records. It was an incredible operation done by working with our partners, realizing that these individuals were affiliated to the Trinitarios gang. And when we realized that, then we did what CBP and our partners do best. Get at the root cause of the problem. Go after these transnational criminal organizations by getting at their networks. And each and every day we would pick off one or two. And with our partners, with ICE, with ERO, with HSI, we used our mapping techniques, looking at individuals with criminal records, arrest warrants, removal orders, and again, picking them off one by one. We could not have done it without them, and it was an amazing success. We looked at businesses, residences, and community hubs that were harboring these individuals. The results speak for themselves. More than 50 arrests as a result of our efforts, all because of the partnership and the work that we did together. It was truly remarkable, and a sign that we will not sit on the sidelines. We will always be there to protect this city. I want to thank, first and foremost, the Secretary again, our Commissioner, our Assistant Commissioner, the Office of Field Operations, our Special Response Team operators, our task force officers, our Border Security Team, our Field Analysis and Intelligence units, under the leadership of George Pasiakos, Mike Firing, Dave Campos, and Carmine Borges, who did an incredible job of protecting the city and making sure that a Saturday night in the park is safe. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm now going to turn it over to ICRO Director Ken Gianello. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. How you doing? My name's Ken Gianello. I am the Field Office Director for ICE Enforcement Removal Operations, New York City. I first want to thank Secretary Noem for traveling to the city today and for our continued and unwavering support of our brave law enforcement officers. We are here today because of the abject failure of the New York City bail reform laws and sanctuary city policies. The tragic shooting of this heroic CBP officer was entirely preventable and is a direct result of those policies. What makes this case particularly egregious is both of these violent criminals had been in NYPD custody on multiple occasions. However, due to these sanctuary city policies and the politicians that prioritize politics over public safety, these criminal illegal aliens were repeatedly released onto New York City's streets to harm this brave officer. ERO New York City is proud to partner with CBP and HSI in this joint initiative to not only locate and arrest the two criminal aliens responsible for the shooting, but also to identify, locate, and apprehend their Trinitario associates, ruthless gang members who engage in illicit activity and terrorize law-abiding New Yorkers. Together, we have arrested over 50 criminal aliens, many with felony convictions, including weapons offenses, drug offenses, robbery, assault, rape, sexual abuse, burglary, and larceny. Approximately 30 of those have already been removed from the United States, while the remaining are in ERO custody at this time. Communities with sanctuary policies suffer the most harm from criminal aliens. When local police release dangerous aliens into the community, they often reoffend in the same community that they are released in. And also, they stay in sanctuary city areas. In this case, the shooter demonstrates he would travel to another sanctuary city jurisdiction, which was in Massachusetts, where he had an outstanding criminal warrant for armed robbery. So to further their criminality without fear of consequences or repercussions, they will travel to sanctuary city jurisdictions, basically hiding in plain sight. They provide safe haven for criminal aliens. The lack of cooperation is unprecedented across the law enforcement spectrum, and rather than the city's stated purpose to protect the immigrants in New York and the citizens of New York City, these misguided policies allow criminals to roam freely in our city, in our country, subjecting New Yorkers and all Americans to unnecessary harm, which includes an off-duty CBP officer just trying to enjoy his Saturday evening in our great city. ICE will continue to uphold the mission to protect the city's residents by holding alien offenders accountable. New Yorkers should not have to worry about violent criminals roaming their neighborhoods because the local systems fail them. We always stand ready to work with our local law enforcement partners without condition and sincerely look forward to reestablishing mutually beneficial path forward for the safety of all New Yorkers to ensure preventable tragedies like this never have to occur again. Thank you. I will now introduce you to the Special Agent in Charge for Homeland Security Investigations for New York, Mr. Ricky Patel.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Ken. Good morning. As you just heard, my name is Ricky Patel. I'm the Special Agent in Charge for Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, here in New York City. It is an honor to join my esteemed colleagues today to say, when our partners call, we answer. No hesitation, no delay. That's the commitment HSI New York brings to every threat against our law enforcement family and to our great city. From the very first moments following the July shooting of our CBP partner, HSI agents alongside local, state, and federal counterparts worked relentlessly, day and night, to track those responsible. HSI personnel, in coordination with our local partners, apprehended the accused gunman within 2 hours of the shooting. We swiftly identified his alleged accomplice, whom we arrested shortly thereafter. In the days, weeks, and months that followed, together with law enforcement, we pursued every known associate of this violent migrant gang crew. We pored over every piece of evidence, followed every lead, and made it clear an attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. Our unity is our strength, and we will never let criminals divide us. Our investigation led to the capture of individuals tied to violent transnational gangs, including associates of the Trinitarios gang that are responsible for weapons trafficking, human smuggling, narcotics distribution, armed robberies, and repeated violent attacks across the Big Apple. Their arrests deliver a major blow to criminal networks that have preyed on our New York City neighborhoods for far too long. This was only possible because of the unwielding and unwavering collaboration between DHS partners and those from the Southern District of New York, the Manhattan District's Attorney's Office, and the law enforcement partners from all levels. Investigative methods and interviews were conducted. We identified additional conspirators and expanded our reach. I am proud to say that the main targets and dozens of their associates have been taken off of our streets. But our work isn't finished. We will continue to leverage every resource, whether it's local, state, or federal, to root out anyone connected to this conspiracy and this violent gang. Leadership and teamwork remain the backbone of our success. HSI's mission is clear: protect public safety and national security by investigating and arresting the most dangerous criminal elements from our communities. Every day, we use our broad authorities to enforce hundreds of federal laws, targeting transnational criminal organizations from every angle. We will not rest. We will not back down. HSI New York will continue to disrupt and dismantle criminal networks, ensuring our city and our country remain safe. Thank you, and I now turn it back over to Secretary Noem.
Well, thank you, Ricky and Frank and Ken, for all of your hard work that you do every day here in New York City, but also for the rest of our country. With that, we'll open it up to any questions that you may have.
Of the 54 people, how many had pending charges or criminal convictions? And I'm wondering, ICE's own data in New York City shows that over the last year, between January and October, 70% of the arrests that ICE did in New York City had no criminal convictions or pending charges. Should New Yorkers expect that trend to change? That's higher than the nationwide average.
If you look across the nationwide average, we have 70% of the individuals that we've arrested and detained have criminal convictions or charges against them, either in this country or other. We're continuing to do our work to bring those criminal illegal aliens to justice. And ICE will continue to get up every day and do what they can to protect New York City. I can have Frank or Ken speak to if you know how many criminal convictions of the 54 had previous to this arrest that they had. I don't know if you have those data points with you. We can get those for you, though. Exactly. The vast majority of them, though, have criminal charges against them or convictions against them as well. Yes.
Where were the 54 people from? Were they all part of the Trinitarios? And what's the immigration status?
Again, loosely affiliated to the Trinitarios. Want to make that clear. Through connections connections that we made by speaking to them, understanding who they were, where they were operating out of, and contacts that they had on their phones.
Immigration status?
Immigration status, all illegals.
So the
does loosely connected mean they just knew someone who was in the gang? They were not members?
It varies. It varies a spectrum from, speaking to individuals associated with the gang to just having conversations.
Secretary, in October we saw mass protests and armored vehicles rolling down Canal Street. How do we ensure that we don't see another situation like what happened yesterday here in Manhattan?
What I would encourage everyone to do, and especially your elected officials, is to bring everybody together, to talk about partnerships and start working with ICE and start working with CBP as we bring criminals to justice. And many times your policies and the rhetoric coming out of elected officials has divided people and pitted them against each other. Our job every day, and what President Trump promised to do, was to protect every single American, no matter where they lived in this country, that he was going to make sure that we weren't going to have more victims in this country. And we are going to continue to do that each and every day. And I'd encourage the leaders in this city and your governor and in other cities and states across this country to work with us rather than opposing us so that we can continue to make our streets safer. Yes, right here.
Hi, Sarah
Hi.
Wilson from Newsmax.
Yep.
This is not the only example, the one that you bring up today, of officers being attacked by alleged gang members in New York City. We also had those officers who were attacked in Times Square back in May. With these examples, has Mayor Mamdani and his administration offered to cooperate when it comes to getting criminal gang members off the streets? Because we know he is not a fan of ICE, but when it comes to criminal gangs, is there any kind of leeway that has been given them?
We're hoping the mayor will work with us to get these criminal elements and especially gang members and terrorist organizations out of New York City. I know he and the president had a productive conversation. Our communication at the Department of Homeland Security has not been productive with the mayor's office or with NYPD, but we want to continue those conversations so we can work together. Yes.
Director Russo spoke about how this operation happened discreetly, covered darkness, and that's how it should be, which is in contrast to what happened in Minneapolis yesterday. You said
What do you mean in contrast to what happened in?
very much not.
Because of the protesters and the violent criminals that were attacking our law enforcement. If you remember in that operation, what happened was our officers were out trying to get a car stuck out of the snow when they were surrounded and assaulted and blocked in by protesters that were inciting.
The officer was following his training.
He did follow his training because of an individual that was.
Point blank into a driver's window. Is that part of the training? How is that self-defense?
This is an experienced officer who followed his training, and we will continue to let the investigation unfold into the individual and continue to follow the procedures and policies that happen in these use of force cases. But let's remember the events that surrounded what happened yesterday on that tragic situation was that these individuals had followed our officers all day, had harassed them, had blocked them in. They were impeding our law enforcement operations, which is against the law. And when they demanded and commanded her to get out of her vehicle several times, she did not. So we'll continue to allow this process to unfold and recognize that these law enforcement officers every single day put their lives on the line. They go out and do their jobs. They go out and. This was an act of domestic terrorism, which is perpetuating. These policies and procedures that follow a use of force situation like this are continuing to be put in place. So this is standard operating procedure after every use of force situation, is that we follow these procedures and protocols. This situation is no different. Back there. Nope, this young lady right beside you. I'll come to you next.
Thank you so much. Should we expect a surge of agents in New York City, and if so, when?
I would say that President Trump and his administration are focused on protecting people. So we will never telegraph exactly the numbers and operations that we have and where we will be focused on. But I think that when you see violent criminals that are taking advantage of American citizens and putting their lives in jeopardy, our law enforcement officers at DHS will always show up. Yes. I'll come back. Go ahead.
Secretary, the officer involved in the shooting yesterday, has he been suspended or is he still in the field?
The officer went to the hospital. He was hit by the vehicle, went to the hospital and received treatment, was released, and is spending time with his family now.
And is he still
Yes, sir?
Yes. In Minneapolis yesterday, you said the surge there would continue. You didn't directly say whether we can expect an ICE surge for civil
deportation enforcement. Can you explain what a surge is? And
I won't describe in detail our law enforcement operations that we have. It's just puts our officers' lives in jeopardy, but they will be there enforcing the laws of this country and upholding the public safety needs that have to happen when it comes to enforcing federal law.
so will this be just Homeland Security investigations?
You know, we've got thousands of officers there, and I'm not opposed to sending more if necessary to keep people safe. Back up here.
Can you talk a little bit about the experience of the officer and some of his background? How much training did he have? How much training in these types of situations did he have, even if he's from the region?
Yeah, I'm not going to get specific to this officer, but he's an experienced officer that has served a number of years, and we recognize that he acted according to his training, and we have expect that all the policies and procedures of review will be exactly that he acted appropriately to protect his life and the life of his colleagues and fellow law enforcement officers that were there and people that were surrounding. Yes.
I'd like to get your reaction on some of the rhetoric here in New York City. Mayor Mamdani responded to the shooting yesterday saying that this is only the latest horror in a year full of cruelty. He called it an attack on us all, that New York stands with immigrants today and every day. Also, council members last night at the protest called this fascism. The New York City's public advocate, Jumaane Williams, said that your administration is, quote, doing the devil's work, and he asked New York City to stand up and show up. Quote, it's going to be difficult and there are going to be casualties. And the last comment that was made last night at the protest was from New York State Representative Alex Boros, also a Democrat. Quote, not only was the ICE agent's hand on the gun, but Secretary Noem's hand was on the gun. President Trump's hand was on the gun. What is your response to New York Democratic leaders, those particular comments, and the protesters that are outside?
I would say those comments are why we're standing where we are today. That kind of language and that kind of provocative talk, inciting people to take action and perpetuate violence in some cases, is unacceptable, and especially of elected leaders. We have a responsibility to state the facts, to go out and enforce the law. Your mayor just said in that statement that he was going to stand with illegal people who have broken our law before he's going to put New York City citizens first. His job and why he was elected was to protect the people who live here, that had the opportunity to vote for him and have the opportunity to live in this city. They pay their taxes, they go to work every day, and instead the mayor in that statement chose to stand with illegals instead of those individuals who just want the chance to raise their families in New York City and have a part of the American dream.
Madam Secretary,
Yes.
2 minutes ago, the head of Minnesota State Investigations Agency said that they have been cut out of the investigation into the fatal shooting in Minneapolis. Can you explain that reversal?
I'd like to know where they've been and why they're not out on the streets investigating all of these people that are harassing and inciting violence on law enforcement officers right now. They're allowing the situation to be volatile. They're not doing their work. They haven't for years, and maybe they should get to work a little bit on the unprecedented fraud that we've seen in Minnesota and in Minneapolis by people that stole from American citizens and diverted funds away from vulnerable people and programs and services that they needed and put it into their own pockets. Minnesota is a train wreck. It is corrupt, and it was under the leadership of Governor Walz and this mayor that they allowed it to happen, and they let criminals and illegals and people abuse programs and steal the money, and now they're allowing violence to go forward on the streets as well.
This also applies to the Minneapolis Police Department, the county sheriffs, the federal authorities at this point. They don't want it.
I won't put a blanket statement out like those other individuals will. What I would say is I welcome them to come and help us. Come help us make sure that the streets are safe, that laws are enforced, and that we can do the right thing to make sure that American citizens come first. Yes, sir. They have not been cut out. They don't have any jurisdiction in this investigation. Yes, go ahead. I'm going to speak to this individual right here. Yes.
How do you respond to Americans who have been listening to your comments that this was an act of domestic terrorism, that the officer was...
Anytime you take something...
It is in direct contradiction to what they are seeing and watching in the multiple angles that have been released.
What I would...
24 hours.
This vehicle was used to hit this officer. It was used as a weapon, and the officer feels as though his life was in jeopardy. It was used to perpetuate a violent act that this officer took action to protect himself and to protect his fellow law enforcement officers. So we'll let this continue to go forward and follow the same policies and procedures that every use of force situation does. But we've had almost over 100 times that these vehicles have been used to ram law enforcement officers and to do damage and to harm them. When you take an action and use a weapon to harm someone and to incite violence against them and try to cause them injury or death, then it needs to be labeled exactly what it was.
Do you believe the use of force in this instance was commensurate with the actions of that vehicle and the driver?
I would say that when these individuals use their vehicles to try to ram our law enforcement and to put their lives in jeopardy, that law enforcement officer has to make a decision to protect his life and the individuals around him as well. Yes.
What did you make of Tom Bowman's comment yesterday that we should wait for an investigation before determining, as you have, that in this incident it was self-defense and that he felt that his life was in danger?
You know, I didn't see those comments, but from what I understand, he also put out a statement later as well. So I'll let Tom speak to that. But all of us are on the same page in the fact that this law enforcement officer followed his training and that he defended and acted in defense of his life and those around him.
Secretary
Yes.
Darla Miles, ABC 7 New York. Two quick questions. First, you said these protesters had been following the ICE agents. Do you have a little bit more of a timeline and can you share with us some of those other initial encounters prior to the fatal shooting? And then secondly, can you speak to the closure of the ICE office at Rikers by Mayor Mamdani?
There will be more details coming out as this goes forward in the coming days, and I'll talk more about that closure in the future.
Is there anything else? So can you say if there was how many times a day, if they had been threatened, like how many other times they?
It had been ongoing throughout the day. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Whatever happened in Minneapolis, a mother of 3 is dead, an American citizen. Do you have a message for her family today?
Yes, absolutely. And I reiterated this yesterday when I had my press conference in Minneapolis. I asked everybody not to just pray for the officer, but also pray for the deceased family and her loved ones as well. It was a tragic situation that I hope we never see happen again. That's why I'm encouraging all elected leaders to work together so that we can be cooperative in getting dangerous criminals off of our streets.
Do you feel like that you go in with a lot of publicity about these operations? Do you feel like that needs to be revisited so that maybe you go in a little more covertly, or do you need to change the approach at all?
I would say that we have all different kinds of law enforcement operations ongoing with the department at all times. We don't telegraph what they are, the details or specifics, or where we're going to be operating. I would say that there's different tactics utilized for what's appropriate for the situation and the criminal activity we see in the city. Last question?
Do you know the details of Renee Hood's harassment of ICE officers early in the day? Were any of those details shared with you? Because apparently it wasn't just that one incident, it was earlier in the day as well.
Yes, it was, and that will be a part of some of the details that we will be sharing in the future. Thank you. Thank you all for being here, and I appreciate you focusing on this operation and the 54 criminals that we have gotten off the streets because of the work of this team behind me. We thank all of them for their service and recognize that, again, I'll remind you, tomorrow is Law Enforcement Day. Please take the time to thank a law enforcement officer who's out there keeping us and our family safe. Have a wonderful day.